So there you go. I don't want me to damn vlog.
You know, every day I keep hoping that we're getting closer to summer, and then New Mexico pulls a New Mexico and decides, hey, you know what we need? Snow. Well, at least I get to go home from work early. It's the beauty of working on campus. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of the vlog. I'm going to actually kind of speed through this a little bit because there's a lot of little things that just happen here and there throughout the week before I get to like one of the bigger things that I wanted to talk about this week. So first off, you know, this is the week right before classes start at work, so we've just been really prepping all the classrooms and getting all of our binders together with all the information on how to run things for the students, you know, so we can hand it off to them so they can run the day operations, you know, in the classrooms where we, you know, are in our office observing the whole thing through Zoom. So then we had that. We also had a meeting with the NCAA for the track and field championship in March, and we were talking to them and kind of sharing ideas with them. They originally just kind of wanted us to go in there and just plug ESPN into the board and then just do a couple graphics here and there, but we're kind of talking them into like letting us have several other cameras so we can cover the field events that are not being covered by ESPN on the in-house, you know, just to give us a little bit more with that. And they kind of said they were like, they want this show to be as extravagant as they possibly can, you know, because they're used to just having a very simple broadcast, and we're like, well, that's why we're here. Like, that's why Windfire Productions is here. So the other thing this week is that we had, of course, Monster Trucks, you know, happen this weekend, and that's always kind of the thing to like kick off the whole year for Windfire Productions. So we get doing that, and then the next 2 months, you know, we get soccer starting up, and then in April we get Isotopes, and those will carry us all the way on till Balloon Fiesta again, and then that'll be the big thing at the end of the year. And so yeah, Windfire Productions is back in business for this year. This weekend too, I'm also going to be working on finally the first official Windfire Productions webpage, because we've been needing one for a long time. So I'm going to kind of build that out and kind of give idea of what we do and the kind of content we provided. You know, take pictures from that everyone has taken, like RJ, Travis, me, Lytle, all of us, and just kind of put it all together into like a nice little website that people can visit to kind of see what we do. And and then we're also going to be working on some other little things for Windfire Productions, like getting ourselves a music license so we can start using different music from Artlist, which is what I used to use over at Lobo Athletics until they stopped paying their bill. But so yeah, we're going to be getting that in there, and then so moving forward with that is going to be great. So with all that out of the way, the one thing that I really was doing this week, because, you know, still feeling a little down from, you know, the events from last week, is I actually started watching a lot of lectures and speeches by Stephen Fry. So who's Stephen Fry? Well, Stephen Fry is an actor, author, writer, radio host, TV host, activist, like a whole bunch of different things. He's from Great Britain, and he's just always been very interesting to me. I mean, some of you people might actually know him when I talked about the TV show QI, and if you've never watched QI, I strongly suggest you go check it out.
Dawson's come up lovely with the rhubarb, but certainly Silver. Silver does very well.
You clean Silver with rhubarb?
How do you do that with a sort of stick? I mean,
Yeah, you just rub it in like that, and then you buff it
Because
off.
if I walked into a room and saw a man rubbing rhubarb on my Silver, I would beat him to within an inch of his life.
Well, anyway, it seems to be true. These are good, ecologically sound things. We may have to return to the days when we used lemon and vinegar and brown sauce.
I'd never get my coppers out my pocket and think they look a bit dull.
You're the ones who suggested coins. I was saying a kettle, for example, or any other...
No one has a kettle like that. What are you plugging that? Look at it. We don't all live in a fluffy, duffy Dickensian world of charm like you.
Oh, there goes the kettle.
And on the Arga.
It's a perfectly sensible way of cooking food and preparing meals, and it keeps the kitchen warm. It's so...
I wonder f***ing Twinings had you, pal. It was...
The reason why I really like Stephen Fry is more because of his character and also the way he really looks at the world. So, I mean, he was born of a Jewish mother, and he went to school at Cambridge, and as most people know, that for pretty much all his life, he's been a homosexual, and so he's been, you know, having to deal with that for most of his life. But one of the big things that I kind of connect with him a lot about is that he has suffered from depression pretty much all his life, and he talks about it regularly on his speeches and his lectures and shows. He even started a organization called Mind, which is focusing on mental disabilities and how to help identify and help people with those kind of things. But he has always been open about how he has tried to take his life 2 times in his life, even one time when he was older, because he suffers from depression. But he somehow has gotten all the way past that, and just like, when you listen to him, just how intelligent he is, how smart he is, and how he views things is just brilliant. Like, I could sit there and listen to just hours and hours of him lecturing and talking about his views on life.
Their collective unconscious, they said, the arts are all daughters of memory. And I think that is extremely true. It's a compressed poetic idea that artists reassemble, put back together again, learned experience, felt emotions, truthful recall of what it is to be alive, and that therefore all artists are summoning that memory. Muses are the daughters of memory. And that's an accident, if you like, of the beauty of human culture, that a people can come up with a myth, a way of personifying complex ideas, abstract ideas.
But let me ask about this. I've always been fascinated by where they come from. It's as though we believe that somehow these things emerge from, you talked about Jungian collective unconscious, but somebody must actually have sat down and made it up in the first place.
Yes.
It doesn't just emerge
It's
as
the
a
same
kind
problem
of...
you have with jokes, isn't it? Where did the joke, who first
yes.
told that joke? And it's
Around a campfire or something, somebody made
one
up a story.
assumes around a fire, yes.
Yes.
I have
My favourite Greek god in some ways is Hestia, perhaps the least well-known of the firstborn of the Olympians, was the goddess of the hearth. And the hearth, when you think about it, all our ancestors, whatever our ethnicity, all our ancestors gathered around flames at night to stay warm and to protect themselves from animals, and they told stories about things over which they had no control, like they tell their children where thunder comes from and why there's fire coming out of the mountain. And everything you can't understand and control, you give a name, a god. And so these gods were developed personalities around the fire. And now, I think we can safely say we've lost the hearth. We don't eat round tables anymore. Someone's got a PlayStation in that room and they get a delivery of pizza into it, and someone else has got another, they're streaming things in another room. Nobody gathers around and shares stories anymore. We've lost our focus, we've lost our hearth. So I'm trying in the books to recreate the relaxed feeling of sitting around a fire, listening to stories, which I think is a primal thing, listening to them together. And so that's perfect.
So it's to do with arson.
Because he's also an atheist, but he's not the kind of atheist that looks down on other religions. He is actually completely open about religious freedom. He thinks everyone should have a thing that they should look at, a thing that they should view. He has his own views and they have theirs. The only thing that he frowns upon is, of course, persecution by religion. So religions that tell you to hate other people because they are not doing the right thing, to hate him because he's a homosexual, to hate other, like, he does not agree with that kind of stuff. It's like, if you want to believe in a higher power and you want to, have that faith to help you get through life, that's fine, but you should never harm another living being through that faith, because everyone has their own ideas and everyone has free speech. Lastly, the one thing that I really like about him is he's really kind of the voice of the middle ground. So he goes on talking a lot of times, about, right wing and left wing, people, liberals, Republicans, all that kind of stuff. And he's never identified with either side. You would think that because of his history and his lifestyle and all that stuff that he would lean more left. And he does talk about that, but a lot of the time he feels like he's betraying the left because people look at him like, well, why aren't you arguing this far on this side, because of your lifestyle? And it's because he thinks reasonably, he thinks logically. And he's always taken like elements from both sides and, he kind of mushes them together. But he always talks about how the biggest issue in this world is that the two extremes are always yelling at the top of their lungs that no one in the middle is ever heard. He always compares it to like standing at the Grand Canyon. You got all the Republicans on the one side of the Grand Canyon, you got all the liberals on the left side of the canyon. And they're yelling to try to just make their voice heard across the canyon. And the more that the other side's yelling, they have to make themselves heard, so they yell even louder. And yet all the people that are inside the canyon at the bottom that are not on either side, they can't have their voice heard at all, because when they shout up, their voice just goes up and outwards and not to the people on the sides who are screaming their heads off because they're not noticing the people that are down in the canyon.
Fortunately, the mouthpieces on either side are so loud, and you're supposed to take a stand. I'm supposed to be on one side or the other. Well, I just repudiate that. I won't be on either side. Neither means anything to me. We live in the world that those who are stupid are so full of certainty, and those who are wise are so unsure. W.B. Yeats put it most famously in the ceremony of innocence is drowned, and the best lack all conviction, and the worst are full of passionate intensity.
And the centre will not hold.
The centre will not hold, exactly. And that's the problem. Being in the centre, which will not hold, the best, which you hope you're part of the best, lack all conviction. We're not certain. We're not convinced. We're not sure how the world should go forward. That third way that they represented, a very self-conscious third way, is treated with suspicion. And my feeling is that a true satirist and someone with true insight, a Jonathan Swift, would actually be saying to you all, and I should be saying to myself, don't look to blame politicians, don't look to blame the sloganeers on either side of the culture wars. It's not their fault, it's your fault. We are the ones who say, oh, look at politicians, they're always just disagreeing with each other. And then the moment there's a third way politician, you say, well, they're all the same. Well, you can't have it both ways. Do you want them all the same or do you want them all different? It's actually you are the problem. You and I are the problem. We want to drive around in cars and we want a green, clean world. Well, you can't have both. You can't square that circle. There are lots and lots of circles that can't be squared and squares that can't be circled. But we lay off all our guilt, all our own self-disgust, and our greed and our rapacity as creatures on this earth. We lay off that burden on politicians who we pay to take our disgust and filth that should be aimed at us.
Brought up this one phrase, and I actually really, really like this phrase because it does make a lot of sense. He's like, we live in a world where people are too busy trying to be right that they don't think about trying to be beneficial. And it's true. Like, even if you know you're in the wrong, you want to be known as right and seen that you're right. So you will argue to the death without logic, reason, or nothing. And, you know, I can't say that I'm not guilty of that too. I mean, I've done that a lot. A lot of my friends know that. But I kind of like that where it's just like, yeah, you know, when you start looking at it as not you being right, but what you can do to benefit the progression of mankind and intellect and all that kind of stuff, that's what I look at him for. And I'm just like, he's a genius. Like, he's one of my favorite people, and he is on my list, like, of the top 3 people that if I could shake his hand, like, that would just, I'd just like melt, because he's just such a great guy. And if you've never actually seen anything from him, I'd strongly suggest looking up stuff and just listening to it one of these days. I'll actually, you know, put a couple links here on the video screen, and I'll even put some in the links down below or in the section on Facebook if you want to go check it out. And I strongly suggest you do. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I have for this week. Of course, it's nice because we got Martin Luther King Day off on Monday, which is always great. And then we get right into the swing of things for school. And so things are going to get a little busy, but I think it's still going to be pretty easy. We're pretty prepared this time, you know, unlike we were back in August. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'll see you guys next week.